So that's a fear response when somebody is unable to respond and instead they react to your honest, relevant, calm communication about how you are feeling in the relationship. You now know that that's a wound that needs to be healed in that person's life because they're reacting out of spirit of fear, not out of power, love, and a sound mind. So that's so good. It's encouraging because now you can have that conversation, which is, I can tell that you're unable to have this conversation. I can tell that we're not able to go any farther in our communication. So we need to back up and ask God, what does He want to do in our relationships so that we can have these conversations? Woo-hoo. Huge, right? In fact, in Psalms 32:8, God says, in order to have a healthy relationship with me, how about this? I will instruct you and I'll teach you in the way that's right to go, and I will guide you with my eye. Anybody know what that means? I will guide you with my eye. Super cool. How does He guide us with His eye? He helps us see what He sees. God is able to instruct us and teach us when He helps us see ourselves and other people the way He sees them. It's about gaining perspective. So we are able to be in healthy relationships with other people when we are able to see their point of view, their perspective. Nobody can help us be more healthy and more loving and communicate love in a more healthy way unless we are able to value and see their perspective. But sometimes we're so wounded and so in the reaction place, we're not even willing or able to see another person's perspective. So that's that next time we have to go back to the Lord and go, is there hurts that you need to heal? Because I don't really care about this person's perspective. Right? So that means if you don't care about another person's perspective or somebody else's perspective just makes you want to hit the roof or hit them, right? Then you have wounds. What?
I do care about some things.
I do care about some things. There's a few, right? I love the honesty happening. Right here, I feel right. Well, sometimes I don't either. Sometimes I'm like, I am so mad at you. I don't care about your perspective. I only care about protecting myself, which goes back to the what? I'm not building and protecting connection because I am wounded. Heal the hurts, and then we get to come back to here. So good, right? That's so exciting.
She got a gift and active. I washed her coffee, so that was two.
The car needed to be washed. All the rest of the house needed to be washed, and the baby.
Right?
Instinctive
So getting
reaction.
to what,
Building up.
Oh, no, I promise you. There was one time I wanted Greg to read something. In fact, we were in relationship with some other people who were kind of giving us counsel, and she and her husband had encouraged us to read this long document, and we had been 9 months in, and Greg hadn't read it, and I was super annoyed with him, and so I was like, Lord, why won't he read it? And I mean, you can't, again, make other people do what they don't want to do, right? And so the Lord said, well, let's pray through this, and He showed me like, why? And I went, well, that's crazy that that's the reason why, but now I have total understanding. See, that's the fun thing, is when God shows you, gives you that perspective of why people are behaving the way they are. So anyway, I said, okay, well, what do we do? And he said, well, let's pray this way. Never had a conversation with Greg. Never, in this whole thing, never had a conversation with Greg. The next day, he walks out and says, hey, I printed out that document that they've been asking us to read. I thought I might read it. The very thing I've been wanting for 9 months, he did. He did it. He did it. Guess what the next words were out of my mouth? Right? Pretty close. Well, was it the most recent one that she sent, or was it the one she sent 9 months ago? And immediately I went, oop, that was not, I am telling you, there is, I said, don't listen to that, don't listen to that. I'm so excited. Thank you for doing it.
I think it went downhill from there.
It didn't go downhill. You were actually very gracious to me. But that's what will happen. The moment our partner or friend or relative starts to behave in the very way that we've been praying, what happens?
Yeah, that's cool.
Old hurts pop up, and you got to crush that person back down again. It's not good enough. I didn't want you to do the car. I wanted you to do the rugs. That is revealing. That's revealing. It's not a thoughtful response. It's an instinctive response that says, this still isn't good enough. So that's revealing that there's hurts that need to be healed. So when the person starts to actually do the very thing that you've been asking him to do, and it makes you even madder, right?
Today.
I love that. I love this. What's happening? Okay, you wanted to say something, Adrian? Yeah, say it. Go ahead. It's so good.
But you didn't help me to wash her today.
I was going to say, in that situation, just say to yourself, this is the ice bucket challenge. And it's not everyone's seen the videos, okay, but the challenge is not to dump a bucket of cold ice water over the person when they've made a step forward.
Right.
Because that's exactly what we do. They've made a step forward, and then our response is like just dumping cold water over them to kind of like, and shutting them down.
Yeah, and then we know that they're not the only problem in this relationship. When we find ourselves doing that, we then realize, I have my own unhealthiness to deal with, and that brings us to number 3, which is to make a plan. Make a plan on how you're going to deal with mistakes that don't include punishment, control, and fear. Make a plan. How are we going to deal with each other's mistakes that don't include punishment, control, and fear? Which, by the way, may be the first time in your life you've never done that before. Sadly enough. Because many of us have grown up in such unhealthy relationships, we really wouldn't know a healthy relationship if it smacked us in the face. So we have used punishment, control, and fear without really realizing that we're doing it. And stepping out of those patterns, make a plan. How am I going to deal with when you disappoint me or you make a mistake and it doesn't include punishment, control, and fear? For Greg, one of the greatest punishments is what? Having a conversation. Right? Okay, am I wrong?
I love your speaking. It's wonderful. It's the best.
But it is, so for me to go, we need to talk this out, that is a punishment in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
It's my favorite thing.
It's your favorite thing, let's have a talk, we need to talk this out. So I've learned several things. If there is something we need to talk out, I'll give them a time limit. This is a 5-minute conversation, a 15-minute conversation. This is I have no idea when we're ever going to finish this conversation.
You're nice.
So that lets him, because he needs to know, like, okay, when am I going to escape?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not a bad thing. It just, having to talk about feelings and all of that, I mean, that's the F word. Feelings. Nobody wants the F word, Nobody wants feelings. So for him, so if I just, anyway, let him go, that's super helpful for him. Okay, let's flip. Yeah. Go ahead. Can you grab the mic? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Just a second.
You just hit on a nerve there of the fear of making a mistake in a relationship. I know I need healing of that. Because when you're afraid, it's because, and I know punishment and control and fear is the way most people respond when you make a mistake, and I do too, right? I'm the same, but that fear, and then you can't be who you really are, and then you're walking around on eggshells, and
Yeah, okay, so let me help you a little bit.
Please,
I'm gonna burst a bubble for you and help you all at once, I hope.
I appreciate it.
Here's the deal. The goal is not to not make mistakes. The goal is not to have in your relationship such a foundation that you never make mistakes again. Because guess what? If you are never in a place where you're continually making mistakes, you are not gaining new territory or accomplishing anything beautiful and amazing that you've never done before in your relationship. You will always have mistakes as you grow and expand in your sphere of influence, in your family. There will never be an end to the mistakes. What we have thought is that we should get to a place where we have proficiency, where we no longer have mistakes. That is a total misnomer. It's not even how God does things. God goes, I am continually wanting to put you into places where you have no idea what to do, and then I want to teach you how to do it. Then I want to show you how to do it. I don't want to tell you how to do it. I want to show you how to do it. When we think that God is a God of telling us how to do things, we get caught in the relationship of obedience and disobedience. When we start to realize that that's not the kind of relationship he ever meant to have with us, he always wanted to live life with us, it takes it out of obedience and into adventure. So that is what our marriages are, that is what our relationships with family are, is always an adventure into the unknown, which means we have to eliminate our fear of making mistakes and start creating plans for how we handle mistakes well. We get to go beyond the problem and go, I'm going to take every mistake and I'm going to gain so much more from it. In fact, I had a recent conversation with a friend in front of other people, and I reacted poorly to her reaction in the meeting. It was super like crickets chirping. It was bad. It wasn't anybody here, and it was Shalene. So this is totally open. And so everyone was like, whoa, Shalene and Angela are not okay with each other. And we were not okay with each other for that moment. And we didn't resolve it in that environment. And people were like, wow, what's going to happen? Like, yikes, right? And so we talked to each other later and said, okay, now what are we going to do? And I said, well, here's how I saw this situation, and I prayed about it, and I asked the Lord what was happening with you, and this is what I thought he shared with me about you, and I prayed about what was happening with me, and this is what I perceive as happening with me. What do you think of both of those things? And she goes, oh, I think both of those things are totally right, and in addition to that, I think blah, 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 and she added her own things. Now, our communication that came from that really kind of embarrassing public frustration that we had with each other built so much better of a relationship that she goes, I think we need to actually go back and go, here's how you really resolve problems. She goes, my big issue with you, Ange, is I'm afraid that if I disagree with you, like in the women's ministry here at church, if I disagree with you, and she goes, I don't even know why I have this fear, because she goes, I know I'm allowed to disagree with you. I know I am, but somehow I feel like I'm not allowed to disagree with you, and so then I go over the top. I get aggressive. Because I have this fear and she goes, and I know that I'm allowed to disagree. And I said, well, how about this? I said, how about we go beyond the freedom to disagree? Because that seems not that exciting to me. I'd like to have people have a better relationship with me than I get to disagree with you. That's not fun. I said, what if we agree that when you disagree with me, not if, when you disagree, it is your invitation from God to have a better idea. So why don't we use disagreement as the foundation for better ideas? That takes us past the point of conflict into the place of creativity and co-creating with God and going, I don't want us to just agree to disagree. I want us to come with a plan that when we disagree, we will both commit to going to the Lord before we even voice our disagreement and just get better ideas. Let's just get better ideas. And then come to me or come to the group and go, well, I think that's an okay idea that Angela had about releasing balloons into the environment, which is apparently a totally toxic, horrible, awful, really, really bad idea to do, and totally doesn't care about our environment. And instead, we could do this or this or this or this. Right? So that's making the plan. You're making a plan not to avoid mistakes. You're making a plan to use every mistake for a massive gain. Because we just realized in our relationship, we don't want to learn how to handle disagreement. We want to learn how to be champions of creativity. Yes! Okay, thoughts, comments? We got to wrap up because I think I'm running into Jared and Lindsay's time and I don't have my phone on me. Anybody know what time it is? 18. After? Okay, we're done. We're done. Okay, here's 20 seconds? Yeah, we're done. I'm so sorry. So here's what you get to do. You get to ask yourself this question. And Greg, if you'll flip the board, you guys get ready, come on up. What is governing my relationship? What is governing my behavior? Is it fear or love? And here's the bigger question you should really ask yourself is, do I have a clue what love is? Do I have a clue what love is? Because I think we're all pretty acquainted with fear, but I'm not sure how acquainted we are with love. So what is governing your relationship? And then you can ask yourself this question. Is this dynamic creating more powerful or powerless people? Is this dynamic triggering self-control or an attempt to control someone else? Is this dynamic pushing me to distance, or is it helping me move towards connection? And lastly, am I overwhelmed when I'm with this person with fear, or am I overwhelmed with love? The automatic to that is not to fix the relationship or fix the other person. The automatic then is this question: Lord, how do I become healthy? How do I partner with you in becoming healthy in all of my relationships? Allowing God to have the other person. So, yay! Yay!